Last Christmas Eve, my mother slid a gift-wrapped box across her dining table, tapped the ribbon twice, and told me it was my future. Inside was a contract to become my sister's assistant. $4,200 a month. My parents had rehearsed that moment for weeks. My sister smiled through every second of it. Not one person at that table knew I own a company worth $1.5 billion. They believed I was a broke bookstore girl who needed rescuing. And I let them believe it, because I wanted to see exactly how my family treats someone they think has nothing. By the end of that night, my sister was on the kitchen floor crying. And it had nothing to do with anything I own. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories, where quiet women tell the stories nobody saw coming. If you've ever been underestimated at your own family's table, this one's for you. 3 days before that dinner, I was on my knees in the children's section of Dogwood Lane books, shelving picture books. My store sits on Main Street in Maple Falls, Ohio. I've run it 9 years. The whole town knows me as the quiet Owens girl who drives a 12-year-old Honda. Here's the part the town can't see. That same afternoon, I climbed the stairs to my apartment above the store and approved the acquisition of a regional freight company for $40 million. One signature. Then I went back down and helped a 9-year-old find a book about volcanoes. I founded Lark's Holdings 10 years ago. We move product for half the retail chains in the Midwest. Warehouses, trucks, the invisible machinery under everything you order online. Our last funding round valued the company at $1.5 billion. I own 60%. Outside a handful of lawyers, exactly 2 people knew my name was attached to any of it. My chief operating officer, Dana Whitfield, who runs the public side, and my grandmother, Pearl, who never once asked for a number. My parents believed I was one bad month from asking them for rent. I never corrected them. That Tuesday, my mother called. Christmas Eve, our house, 6 o'clock, she said. We're celebrating your sister. Madison had been named CEO of Bright Line Home, $600,000 a year. Then the scalpel came out, smooth as always. There's something we want to discuss with you too, about your future. The bookstore was sweet for a while, but sweet doesn't pay for retirement, does it? Wear something nice. Gerald Hartman might stop by chairman of Madison's board. Then, the sentence she believes is love. We just want you to be somebody, Thea. I wasn't angry yet. Anger takes hope, and mine had a scar where the hope used to be. 11 years earlier, I was 23 and had just watched my first company die, a small delivery startup, 2 leased vans, 14 months of 18-hour days, wiped out by a national chain. I came home that Thanksgiving hollowed out, hoping someone might say, "You tried something hard." Instead, I got a family tribunal. My mother had notes. She read out every failure, line by line, while my father studied his hands and my sister said nothing. She finished by taking my hands like a kindness and telling me, "Dreams are for people who can afford them, sweetheart." My uncle said amen. Something in me went quiet and cold that night. If my dreams were a luxury item, fine, I'd build them somewhere my family couldn't window shop. I took a warehouse job outside Columbus, learned freight by drowning in it, wrote routing software in the break room, and instead of selling it, I kept it. I started Lark's with 1 client and a laptop. We bought a struggling warehouse operator in year 3, 2 trucking firms in year 5. By year 7, the trade papers were writing about the company's mysterious ownership, because I'd structured everything through layered holding companies. Dana became the public face. One reporter nicknamed the majority owner the Ghost. I liked the Ghost. The Ghost never sat on an ottoman. My rule was simple: information is inventory. I never let anyone see the warehouse. Not my parents, not old friends, not the men I dated, who all eventually left the way you'd leave a house where half the doors are locked. The first thing I bought with real money was the brick building on Main Street, and I put a bookstore in it, because it's the one business nobody in my family would ever envy. 2 days before Christmas Eve, my mother accidentally left me in a group text titled Christmas Eve Plan. Menu, seating chart, I was placed between her and Madison's husband, Cole. which should have told me something. Then, Frank will read the letter after dessert. Madison presents the offer. Don't bring up the assistant job until after the toast. 30 seconds later, nobody tells Thea it's an intervention. She'll run. 3 dots appeared and disappeared from my sister from Cole. Nobody wrote, wait, she's in this group. Nobody wrote, maybe we shouldn't ambush her at Christmas. That night brought no tears, because by then I'd had 11 years of practice at neither crying nor shouting. What I did instead was decide to walk into that dinner exactly as the woman they'd invented, thrift store coat, wide eyes, no defenses, and watch, closely and finally, how my family treats a person they believe has nothing to offer. Every condescending smile would be a data point. At the end of the night, I'd tally it and decide how much of my life these people deserved. The morning of the 23rd, my grandmother Pearl called the store. 86, still drives her ancient Buick to bingo, does not call to chat. You're coming tomorrow night? Yes. A pause with weight in it. Good, I need you there, Thea. She hung up before I could ask why. That afternoon, Dana sent me an urgent file. A client review, Brightline Home, one of Larks's 10 biggest accounts. Invoices sliding past 90 days, 2 quarters of missed volume commitments. Our analysts recommended terminating the contract at the end of January. I was about to approve it when I reached the paragraph naming Brightline's brand new CEO, hired 3 weeks earlier to right the ship. Madison Owens Clark. My sister's $600,000 triumph was the top job at a company my own analysts had just described, in writing, as circling the drain. I told Dana to hold the termination decision until after the holidays. No explanation. That's why it's Dana. I parked my Honda behind cars worth more than my parents' house and walked in to be humiliated on schedule. Garland, a 9-foot tree, a hired kid taking coats. My mother met me at the door, did the full elevator scan, coat, boots, bare nails, and sighed. Oh, Thea, you could have made an effort. The table was set with cream place cards, calligraphed with names and titles. Madison Owens Clark, Chief Executive Officer. Cole Clark, Regional Sales Director. Mine said, Thea, just Thea. By the fireplace stood a man I'd never met, silver hair, golf tan, the practiced lean of someone who chairs things. Gerald Hartman, chairman of Madison's board, my mother beamed. He looked at me the way you look at a word on the tip of your tongue. I'd seen him before, across a lawyer's conference table in Chicago. During cocktail hour, I let my mother explain the word, portfolio, to me with hand gestures, while her friends exchanged soft, pitying glances. My aunt asked if I was still doing the little book thing and squeezed my arm twice, like comforting the recently diagnosed. Nobody asked what I loved about the store. Nobody asked if I was happy. I'd braced for cruelty and gotten something worse. Warm, total dismissal. The kind that smiles while it erases you. Then my mother clinked her glass and delivered what she called a family tradition, a shareholder report where the only stock was Madison. She walked us through the promotion like Stations of the Cross, slowed down for the number, 600,000 a year, and the room applauded. Then she turned to me. And Thea is still with her little bookstore. We keep hoping. Quiet, terrible laughter. I smiled and raised my glass. One broke girl saluting the fleet, but Gerald Hartman wasn't laughing. He was doing arithmetic that wouldn't come out even. The doorbell rang mid-applause, my grandmother, 5 feet of wool coat and opinions. She hugged Madison, congratulated her, then found me and murmured into my ear, "Stay close tonight." My mother seated her at the far end, the seat you give a child or a problem, and announced, almost as an aside, that Pearl would be moving to Silver Meadows in January. They were listing the Chestnut Street house. Pearl said evenly I wasn't aware I'd asked. My mother laughed the laugh she uses to pave over people and turned to me. Honey, you couldn't buy the garage. The table chuckled. I understood completely why Pearl had needed me there. Hartman cornered me by the drinks cart before dinner, smooth as 1,000 meetings. Brightline works with an outfit called Larkspur, he said. Runs our whole backbone. Nobody knows who owns it. Trade press calls the owner a ghost. I was in a room in Chicago once, 2 years back. The ghost came in for 10 minutes, never said a word. The whole room just waited on a nod. Funny thing, you remind me of someone. I giggled. Me? I sell picture books to third graders. He laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. They sent me to the kitchen for the mashed potatoes. Every ambush needs its errands. Under the tree sat a box in cream paper, tagged in my mother's hand. To Thea, your future. Through the doorway, I heard my mother and Madison running the schedule like producers. After dessert, your father reads the letter. Then you present the offer, warm big sister, not boss. Then my mother's voice dropped into the tribunal register. Don't let her answer until everyone's watching. She won't make a scene in front of guests. She never does. And Madison, the celebrated executive I just applauded, said, I know. That's what I'm counting on. I carried the potatoes to the table without spilling a drop and felt the last soft thing I had for that dinner quietly close its doors. They hadn't just planned this. They'd rehearsed it. After the pie plates were cleared, my father stood with a folded letter and read it in a shaking voice. The bookstore was called my hiding place. My Honda made an appearance. So did my empty ring finger. Then my mother rose, the headliner never lets the opener close, and said, we just want you to be somebody, and Madison brought the box to the table. Inside on bright line letterhead, executive assistant to the CEO. $52,000 a year, reporting to Madison. My sister leaned down, warm as a heat lamp, and delivered her rehearsed line. You don't have to be great, Thea. You just have to be near it. While my own company moved more than that every 4 seconds of a business day. Then Hartman's phone buzzed a third time, and he went the color of the tablecloth. I stepped onto the back porch and called Dana. Bright Lines board was an emergency session. Christmas Eve, someone had gotten wind, and they were accelerating Madison's commitment package. A personal equity buy-in of $340,000, due December 26th, so they could announce leadership stability before the news broke. Through the window, I watched my sister laughing, about to pour her savings into a hole her own vendor, me, was deciding whether to seal. If we terminate, Dana said, they fold by spring. If we stay quiet, your sister buys the iceberg. What do you want to do? Nothing yet, I told her. Keep your phone on. Back inside, Hartman pulled me into my father's study and laid it out cold. Chicago, 2 years ago, 31st floor, a financing meeting. A woman in the third chair who never spoke. And when terms changed at the 11th hour, the whole room waited on her nod, and 60 million moved. Tell me I'm wrong, he said. I could have lied. 10 years of practice, a boring cover story that defended itself. Instead, I heard Pearl's voice, stay close tonight, and I was tired. Tired of being a ghost at every table I'd built and every table I was born to. Third chair from the window, I said. My God, he breathed. You're the ghost. He didn't apologize for what they'd just put me through. He negotiated. Extend the contract, give Bright Line air through the second quarter, and nobody needs to hear about tonight or about the buy-in. Your sister keeps her job. Everybody wins. I looked at him. Enjoy dinner, Gerald, and walked out. I found Pearl on the back porch, mittened hands around cold tea. You've been running a test on this family for 10 years, child, she said, unprompted. Sitting there in your old coat, keeping score. Nobody passes a test they don't know they're taking. Money is loud, worth is quiet. But quiet and hidden aren't the same thing, and you've been calling one the other for a long time. Inside, Hartman had recovered enough to raise a glass and announce, to the room, that Bright Line had exciting news coming with its partner Larkspur, looking straight at me. My mother, inflated by the word partner in a rich man's mouth, swung it right back to signing the contract. Sign it here, sweetheart, with everyone we love as witnesses. Madison pulled me into the kitchen for 2 minutes and out of Hartman's earshot came a part. Please just sign it. I know it's beneath you. If you're settled, Mom will finally stand down. The commitment package is my whole savings, and Gerald says it's standard. Just take the job, Thea, so one of us gets to breathe. That's when I understood. They hadn't built a ladder for her and a cage for me. They'd built 2 cages and gold-plated one. I walked back to the head of the table and didn't pick up the pen. Madison, one question before anybody signs anything tonight. Has anyone shown you Bright Line's real aging report? Not the management version. I laid it out, calm as story time. Receivables past 90 days, 2/4 of missed commitments, warehouses stacked 2 seasons deep, a fully drawn credit line, which is why. 3 weeks after hiring you, your board suddenly needs its brand new CEO to write a personal check and call it confidence. My mother told me to sit down. I didn't. Cole asked if I'd read it on Facebook, and Gerald Hartman set his glass down so fast it cracked against the piano. Madison looked between us, and 3 weeks of fog condensed into ice. Why does my sister know my numbers? Because Lark's is mine, I said. I founded it 10 years ago. I own 60%. My company runs every warehouse and every truck Brightline has. My analysts have spent 3 weeks deciding whether to cut your company loose, Madison. That's why I know your numbers. They cross my desk before they cross yours. Silence has a sound. It's ice shifting in 14 abandoned glasses. My mother laughed, a genuine, bright social laugh. Thea, sweetheart, Lark's is a billion-dollar company, Gerald, tell her. And Hartman looked at me and said the only word he had left. Chicago. Then he sat down carefully and set his drink on the floor. I watched my mother's face go from scorn to shock to something worse, real-time reappraisal. The way a realtor's eyes reappraise a house when the neighborhood turns. I understood, in that instant, that I'd never again know which version of her love was for me and which was for the number. That was the whole cost of the test, and it burned down with the fortress in one sentence. She recovered fast, arms rising for an embrace, my brilliant, secretive girl I always knew. I stepped back. No, I said, you don't get to be proud of me tonight. An hour ago I was your failure. The only thing that's changed is a number. I was always somebody, Mom. You were waiting for one. My father, who had not addressed me directly in years, stood, told my mother to sit down, quiet, not unkind, and said we ought to hear what Thea thinks needs saving in this room. I turned to Hartman. Here's what happens now. In front of the witnesses you performed for all night. Lark's extends Bright Line's payment terms 90 days and keeps the contract through Q1. 2 conditions. The equity buy-in disappears tonight, she wires nothing. And an independent audit, my choice of firm, full access. Books open to Madison by January 15th. She runs a real company with real numbers. Or you explain to your board why your largest vendor pulled out on the 26th, and why you let her retirement account solve your problem instead. You have until the coffee's cold. Agreed, Hartman said, gray and small. Madison made a sound I hadn't heard since we were kids and walked into the kitchen, where her legs gave out, and she slid down the cabinets to the floor, crying in her beautiful suit. Not because of anything I own. Because someone had finally stood between her and the people spending her, and it had never occurred to her that it would be me. I sat with her a while. Then I got my coat and walked into the snow. My mother followed, and for once didn't perform. My father told me a butcher's girl shouldn't dream past the register, she said. I thought if you girls had titles, the world couldn't do to you what it did to me. That's what I thought love was. It was the truest thing she'd said to me in 11 years. Say it again sometime, I told her. Some night when you haven't just been caught, and I drove home. The audit took 11 weeks and read, like a weather report from inside a hurricane, 3 years of numbers wearing makeup. Hartman resigned as chairman in February, board language for before the vote. Bright Line shrank by half, but what was left was smaller and honest, and paid its invoices on time. Madison kept her job, at a lower salary, on terms she told me were the first she was certain she'd earned. Her $340,000 never left her account. The Chestnut Street house never got listed. I bought it that spring, market price, straight paperwork, because Pearl doesn't accept charity and I wasn't fool enough to offer any. She still lives there and pays me rent of $1 a month. The trade press found the ghost by March. Maple Falls buzzed for 2 weeks and moved on, the way small towns do. The bookstore is still open Tuesday through Sunday. This Christmas Eve there were 6 of us at a table set for 6. No hired kid, no place cards, no titles under anyone's name, no shareholder toast. Because we'd all lived the year and didn't need the summary. My mother almost introduced me to a neighbor in November as being in logistics, quite significant, actually, caught herself mid-sentence and stopped. That clumsy correction, repeated a dozen ways over a dozen months, is what change actually looks like at 63. Under the tree was one small box, wrapped in plain paper. A beat-up copy of A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, the same one I checked out of the library over and over the year I was 12. The year, she used to say reading, wouldn't pay for anything. Inside the cover she'd written, "You were right about what things cost. Love, Mom." A neighbor stopped by with cookies and my mother introduced me. "This is my daughter, Thea. She reads more than anyone I know. No title, no number, just that." Pearl caught my eye down the table and winked, slow as a lighthouse. "Money is loud," she told this family once. "Worth is quiet." This year, for the first time I can remember, my family finally lowered its voice, and I stopped hiding inside the hush. If the people you love only see you when you shine, the bravest thing you can do isn't hiding your light, and it isn't blinding them with it. It's standing in plain sight at your full size, and letting them choose what to do with the view.